Thank you for joining Wars of the Rosies. And this is Trees, the Teachers of Men by Edwin X. Koch, FRC. An article from Rosicrucian Digest, Volume 21, Number 12, January 1944. Trees, the Teachers of Men by Edwin X. Koch, FRC. A tree is indisputably the most highly developed form which vegetation assumes. We like to think of trees as noble and majestic. Many of them have stood for centuries, and their venerable ages are lost in antiquity. A few of the famous trees of Lebanon are still standing from those days when men felled them for Solomon's temple. In California are the famous sequoia trees, which are so massive and gigantic that passages have been hewed through their bases, permitting vehicles to pass through them. You may have seen a section of one of these trees in a natural history museum. Each ring indicates an added year of growth. Little flags are placed at different rings to indicate its diameter at some important event in past history. It is a greater monarch than the long line of kings and emperors, discoverers, scientists, artists, poets, and philosophers who have come and gone since it first came to leaf. It is likely to stand centuries after the present civilization has passed into oblivion. When we think that these massive trees were once enclosed in a little seed, and that they rose from feeble beginnings and assumed their ponderous structure from earth and atmosphere, then we are awed with the architecture of God. But trees could not have become the particular trees that they are if it were not for countless cells organized according to some definite law and the spirit of harmony. There are laws that control its spiral growth, its texture, its outward form and symmetry, its color, its bark, the shape of its leaves, and even a law controlling its longevity. How often we pass trees without giving thought to their wonderful structure. Perhaps it is because trees are so common, and yet we enjoy seeing them covered with leaves in the summer and with snow after the bleak winter storm. The man on the street does not arouse much interest because he too is so common. Trees teach us, however, that there is harmony in natural law, and that there must be a counterpart in comprehensive laws in the organization and evolution of society. These are cosmically decreed, but too often their functioning is impeded by man's violations. Nevertheless, the laws of ethics, physiology, and economic life are immutable and underlie the foundation of success in life and business, govern the pathway of progress, and shape the destiny of man. You are well acquainted with the biological changes which take place in plant life, from germination to maturity. But perhaps you have not given sufficient thought to the fact that every tree begins its growth under unfavorable circumstances because it is surrounded by many dangers and continues to meet difficulties. Through every stage of its life, man's span of years is also a struggle against difficulties. The first steps in any undertaking are the most difficult, and all solid and enduring advancement is made slowly and imperceptibly. Preeminent talent and worthwhile achievements are of slow growth and are the result of industry and hard working. Trees teach us not only the necessity of work by every member of the community, but they also teach us the nobility of labor. There are all kinds of trees, just as there are all kinds of men. But with this difference, all trees work in harmony with directing forces, whereas all men have not learned to use their free will with intelligence. Trees have their periods of work as well as their periods of rest, and the cessation of activity is necessary in order that the gain in growth may be adjusted to the older growth for strength and security. Like the tree, our aim should be high and honorable, and as the tree may bend but never stoop, so men should not yield to mean principles or discouragement, although his progress may be slow or halted or difficult. The tree knows how to buffet the storm of wind and rain, and it knows too the sunshine will come tomorrow. It is adversity that calls forth the nobility of man's nature and makes him transform every obstacle into a monument of his skill and strength. Let us not forget the transcendent love that is showered upon every plant and tree and earthbound thing, and then contemplate the greater love that is showered upon every spiritually bound human being. We have in every tree an illustration of this maxim. In union there is strength. A few leaves by their united labors form a shoot, and this by repetition of itself produces a great tree. And in the process the roots and the successive generations of leaves play an equally important yet distinctive part. So it is so with man. Individually important, he nevertheless becomes powerful by entering into combination and association with his fellows. By common understanding and cooperation, he has measured the magnitude of the earth, the planets and the sun, and has calculated the distances of the stars. He has made the jungle disappear from the primeval forest and the poisonous swamp, and produced on their site a landscape smiling with health and fertility. He has girdled the earth with railroads, examined the lightnings which he has drawn down from the heavens, and used them to annihilate distance and time between the continents. None of these things have been done by one man alone, but by using the knowledge of other men today and the heritage of other men in the past. We have seen in the present world struggle that freedom can only be vouchsafed by world cooperation, and that isolated or indefensible groups are just as fragile and perishable as autumn leaves. Thus the tree teaches us the impressive lesson of our frailty, and further that man works not for himself alone, but for the posterity. Trees work in combination to cool the climate, to break storms, to keep soil from erosion, as well as to store great quantities of water beneath the soil, all for the benefit of civilization and posterity. United in a forest, they maturely shelter each other on all sides against storms and the drying effect of the sun's rays. This reciprocity of action is highly interesting. Thus, herbaceous plants and grasses envelope the earth with a protective covering. They allow these sunbeams access to the young seedlings, and also give them a sufficient amount of shade, so that the sun rays are prevented from drying the soil and thus injuring the young growth. It is thus that trees grow up at first under the shadow of the smallest members of the vegetable kingdom, only to reciprocate as they approximate the period of their maturity and strength, thus returning the favors which they received in their days of weakness and infancy. We were once children, and we should reciprocate our blessings by protecting the children of the world and teaching them that we can best fulfill our mission in life by establishing a true brotherhood of man. Invest in United States war bonds and stamps. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and comment. And if you can, please consider donating to Wars of the Rosies. Links to PayPal and Patreon are in the description. Thank you so very much.